Hey guys, welcome to the latest episode of Skagit Storytellers. My guest this week is Jennifer Dalton. She was a colleague of mine, and she's setting off on a 14-month sailing journey around North and South America. Check out the website, oneoceanoneisland.com, for more information on this new adventure of hers. I appreciate Jen coming on and talking about going through stages of grief a few years ago that led her to ask herself the question, what brings me joy? Or what brought me joy in the past that I need to bring back? Her answer was sailing. I encourage you to listen to this episode and then pause. Reflect on your life and think, do I have something in my life that brings me joy? Spencer and I were just recording our weekly radio show. We showcase the amazing local talent in the valley and surrounding counties, and I couldn't stop smiling during the recording. That show, this podcast, our music community, they all bring me so much joy, and I hope that you have something in your life that makes you smile while you're doing it. On Saturday night, Natural Israel and the Bell Founders are opening for Benny Seidlinger at the Arcadium Public House. Another great show that night is Otherwise Elsewhere, Pretty Much Nothing, and Something Strange at Cat's West Side Stories. You know I love Pretty Much Nothing, but I have to say I am almost more excited for Something Strange. They're a band out of Darrington that blew my mind in concrete at Mardi Gras earlier this month. Go see them. You will not be disappointed. Thanks for listening, texting me your thoughts on episodes, and thanks for sharing my posts on social media as well. When I first started this, I was so excited to hit 100 listens, and then I hit 1,000, and I couldn't believe it. And I thought, that's it. I don't need to track any more milestones. And I just checked, and I believe that this episode will put me over the 7,000 mark. It means a lot to me that you guys all care about hearing other people's stories. There are so many more to come. Enjoy your week, be of use, and go do something hard.
Howdy, partner. Welcome to one of the most northern parts of the United States of America. Travel with me upriver as we talk to a bunch of ladies and fellers and they share their tales of wit and wisdom. That's right, it's time again for Skagit Storytellers
with Liz Duffy. We're definitely not going to talk about school.
Okay.
But let's talk about retirement.
I didn't retire. I separated service. Because I'm early retirement, and
you're not 67? Just kidding.
If I wait till like 63, 65, then I'll get a lot more. So I just decided to do a separation of service. So I resigned.
Got it.
Yeah.
And how long were you at your current position?
Oh my gosh. The current position, over 10 years.
Leaving it after 10 years must be rough.
Yeah. So I started at the district office in 2012 when I was in enrollment in special ed, and then I went into the executive assistant position and made such great friends and such great connections. And I love that district. So yeah.
I did mention to Fran and...
Oh, you know Fran.
Who else was it?
We call her the face of Burlington. She's awesome.
I was at a meeting, I think last week, and I said, hey, just letting you ladies know that Jen's going to come on the podcast. They're like, what? And I said, I think she might become, I got the dates mixed up with Andy's. I think she's coming over Wednesday, and they're like, oh my God, she's going to be a wreck.
That's really funny. Yeah. So Fran's like my bestie. She honestly, I've never worked with someone as long as I did with Fran, and she's just the highlight of my day. And
she's your work wife.
She's my work wife. And she was a wonderful, wonderful work wife. The best.
You have a new adventure.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, let's just get this out of the way. I was telling a couple people that you were coming over, and I said, I really want to talk about her journey and what she's doing. I think someone asked me, maybe like about our relationship or something. I said, this is our relationship. I say to her, have you been to Parksville lately? And then she tells me yes or no. And then we share a couple Parksville facts. And that's it. Remember, our parents are from Parksville.
Yes, I forgot.
Well, I shouldn't say that. Not from. My dad, like I was raised in Ladysmith.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But then I always joke with my dad, like, every few years he'd move north, and I'm like, the older you get, the more north you're going.
Go to Parksville or Qualicum.
But he always said, like, I'm only moving to Parksville. I'm not moving any far north. And it's funny because our sister, she just moved to Qualicum. And so she beat my dad to Qualicum.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. My parents now leaving Parksville to move to Qualicum.
Really?
Yes. That's really funny.
And whenever I think of Parksville, obviously I think of the beaches, but then I think of that really sweet little restaurant called Lefty's.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which I think, isn't it you get 10% off if you're left-handed?
Yeah.
That is so Canadian.
It's so Canadian. Oh, that's awesome. When did you come to the States?
I met a guy overseas in South Korea and teaching English. I was over there. Ended up doing the K-1 visa. So that was 2010.
Oh, wow.
You sent an email to our entire staff letting us know. That's like ballsy to hit.
It really was.
To send to all.
I
did. Because throughout my 9 years working there, there's been a couple people who have accidentally hit the send all staff. You sent the email out saying, hey, I'm done at my job and this is what I'm doing.
Yes. So on May 3rd, out of Anacortes, Cap Sandy, we depart on a 48-foot sailboat, and we are going, a crew of five, and we're going to sail north and go through the Northwest Passage, and then we sail around North and South America for 14 months. And while we're doing this, we're going to be doing this with a purpose, and we're doing it for research, and then we're going to be sharing it all through an education web platform called Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants.
Is it research about animals, landforms, like anything specific, climate change?
Climate change, ocean research. So we're working with University of Victoria, UCLA, and Woods Hole Oceanic Institute back east. And we're doing a pole-to-pole kelp study. So they've done already like the satellite image all around North and South America. And we have 40 plus kelp beds that happen to be along our route. And we're going to be stopping at each one and studying them. And then on top of that, UW Applied Physics Lab also will be, they have a whole bunch of science equipment on board. And most of theirs is like water temperature, wave height, different things like that. And so we're combining all the research to get the most information we can about what's happening in those spots with the kelp beds and if they're thriving or if they're not, and kind of reporting back to the universities that we're working with, but also sharing all the science live and openly. And then again, we'll do like classrooms on board too. So,
and I mean, when you said kelp beds, I don't know nothing about ocean life, and I just think, oh, so like kelp's just like a plant out in the water. What's the big deal about
the bull and giant kelp forest? That's what we'll be studying. They're kind of like the second, the old growth of the ocean, and they hold a lot of. Honestly, as I drove here, I was talking to my daughter who's going to be on board with me. She's a marine biologist.
Oh, your daughter's going?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. What's her name?
Grace Dalton. Okay. And she's a graduate from Burlington Edison, and now she's at University of Victoria, and she's studying to be a marine biologist. And so she's the one who actually collected all these universities together and all these scientists to do this pole-to-pole kelp research. Wow. So I called her and I was like, Grace, you gotta buff me up on all the science as I was driving here, because I'm the project director for the whole expedition. And so I'm kind of all over the place. I'm making sure the boat's getting all the refits. I'm making sure the scientists are all collaborating. I'm making sure that we've got the education going, the crew's happy, and then making all the connections as we go as well. We're really talking about what our day-to-day will look like and how much we really can offer to everyone and what will it look like. So I'm really diving into our day-to-day more or less right now and talking about what that kelp research will look like, because we have to stop at a kelp bed. We have an ROV, which is an underwater remote operating vehicle that will go underneath there, and it has live camera on it. It will be taking some pictures. We'll be doing other picture taking and kelp sampling for the scientists.
Is the kelp bed really thick? Like how thick is it?
Yeah, it's almost like I'm a diver as well. So if you go through like a beautiful kelp forest, it literally is like you're diving in a forest. It's quite pretty, like beautifully spaced apart, the actually long kelp oh my gosh, tubes, and then at the top they have like the long floating mermaid hair,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we actually on the 24th, I think it is, of March, we're working with this Samish tribe, and we're going to go over to Bowman Bay. There's a beautiful, they have a beautiful totem there called the Maiden, and they're going to talk to us about their kelp restoration and why the maiden is so important and what kelp means to them. And that's just part of what we're going to be doing. Is we're going to be doing research, but we're also going to be engaging in storytelling from the boat as well. So it's your whole shoreline around North and South America, really. And if it's not thriving and doing well, and it's a critical habitat, it also has it's a massive carbon regenerator as well. So it's just has a lot of different impacts out there, and it's very important. I know I'm missing some things. My daughter's going to kill me for this, but it is an important science, and you can look at it on our website at One Island, One Ocean. And we call it One Island, One Ocean because we look at North and South America as one island, and that we all should be looking at the ocean around it as one ocean. And so we're trying to gain connections and research, and then as we go around, talk to people about what they're doing, what they're noticing, and engage kids in what we're doing and what's happening with the oceans. Because ultimately, we're trying to find like the next ocean steward out there and inspire somebody to be an ocean steward. So, yeah.
And so did you grow up sailing? Like, how did you get into diving, sailing?
Yeah.
Are you from here?
I'm from North Vancouver, BC. I grew up, sailing, windsurfing and sailing. And I love the ocean. Absolutely love the ocean. And I talked all my life about sailing. I wanted to sail since I was 15. I read a book called Maiden Voyage by Tanya Abbey, and it just inspired me. I always, like you said, people said, oh, I've always done kind of things like this. Well, I've traveled a lot. I decided to just go and travel. I wanted to sail, but I never really had the money to do it or whatever. But
so you traveled like in college or?
Yeah, I traveled college age. I worked at a fishing lodge up north in British Columbia. I traveled all over. I went through South America and traveled and lived in Chile. And then I traveled through Europe, and just sort of every year off I went, kind of did something.
Yeah.
Time went on, and I raised my kids. I ended up moving to Skagit Valley. And
what brought you from Canada to here?
Really just another adventure, to tell you the truth, and moved down just for the adventure of it. And we ended up staying and loving Skagit Valley, raised my kids here. And I boated all my life and boated with the kids in the San Juan Islands. But my kids now are older and off to college and stuff. And COVID was an interesting time for me. I lost two brothers, and they're up in Canada, and the border was closed, and I couldn't get to them. I didn't lose them from COVID, but it was just it was a really impactful time for me. I couldn't get to my family, and I had to go through something here on the other side of the border by myself. But the whole world sort of stopped for me, and everything went quiet. And I really got centered again. I started meditating, doing yoga, and wrote in my journal. And one of the things I wrote was, I need to bring sailing back into my life. And within months, I'm not kidding you, it was just like this rapid sequence of events. And it's kind of been magic for me since then. I met Mark Schrader, who people had been trying to introduce me to him for years, but he is in his 70s. He has solo sailed around the world twice. He's done this expedition in 2009 and 10, where he went around North and South America. And then he also was a race director for an around the world race for 12 years. So he's a very experienced sailor. And here I always talk like I was. And then I met him he has a whiskey night and in his barn, and I met him there. And really on that first night that I met him, he pulled down this school map, and I was showing him where I was from in North Vancouver. And then I said, and I used to work here in Haida Gwaii at a fishing lodge.
Oh, is that where you worked?
Yeah.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, very incredible experience up there. And I asked him if he'd ever been there, and he said, I've sailed past so many times, but I've never been there. And And then a few months later, he and his wife go to California often through the winter. And a few months later, I get an email saying, would you guys like to crew on board? I'm going to circumnavigate Haida Gwaii. And I was like,
Wow.
Yes. And so what happened from there is I ended up going down to the docks, and it was the first set of people going out on this month-long journey was myself, Mark Schrader, who I barely knew. I'd met him a few times. And then Herb McCormick, who I'd never met, and he went on the first expedition with Mark Schrader. Plus, he's like a writer and editor for Cruising World magazine, and I just knew nothing about how big time these boys were, like nothing. I jumped on the boat and literally went like, holy crap, what am I doing here? What am I doing? And these guys are so good. So I was freaking out, and I text my girlfriends right away. I'm like, what am I doing? And they're like, you just bring your badass, self to this, and it'll be awesome. And it was magical for me. It was sort of, I'd done a lot of healing, but I literally felt at home and at peace and at one with everything about being on the water again.
And what year was that you finally got back on?
2 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was in the summer of 2023.
Yeah. So it took a few years from your realization of, hey, I need to get back to sailing.
Yes.
To getting back on the water.
Yeah. I wrote that in my journal maybe months before that. So it took me some healing time. And then I wrote this, like I was looking for what made me happy, because you have to find something to focus on when you're grieving. And I was trying to find what made me happy and what could bring that joy back in my life. And anyway, this brought a lot of joy back in my life.
That's great.
And yeah, so anyway, by the end of, I've written a couple of stories. I've been being published in 48 Degrees North about that adventure for myself, because it was huge. And I sailed back to the fishing lodge I used to work at. And then while we were up there, Mark Schrader, there was a big gale force wind coming in, and it would be worked to our advantage. And so it was coming from the north, and it would have taken us right down on the outside of Haida Gwaii, heading back down toward Vancouver or Seattle way. But it was going to be for like 3 days of 30 plus knots of wind, big weather.
Wow.
And Mark Schrader wanted to go 30 miles offshore in this and sail it out. And I'm like, well, if I really wanted to sail and I wanted to do, possibly sail around the world on my own after this adventure, I was like, this is the person to go do this with, And off we went, and it was just really neat. So like that day we went out, and I was watching the weather, the waves, everything, just waiting for that build up. And by that night it got big. It was about, easily 10-foot waves and really big, 30 plus, I would say it was almost 40 knot winds.
Wow.
And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I felt at one with it. You have to focus a lot, and I was focused on something beautiful, incredible. I love feeling the wind and working with all the elements and bringing everything together to just feel like. So anyway, we were in this gale force winds for 3.5 days.
Wow. And
landed in Tofino. And I was just on a complete high from it, just so excited and happy. And when I got to Tofino, Mark Schrader said, I've been trying to do this project and bring it back to life again. I've wanted to circumnavigate North and South America. And he asked if I'd be interested in joining the team. And I was just like, are you kidding? Yes.
Well, he's smart. He caught you on a high.
He did. You're right. He did.
You wake up the next morning and go, what did I agree to?
No, I've never looked back, because like I said, I've always wanted to do a lot of sailing. And this has been an incredible journey for me so far. I absolutely love it. I feel like I'm in my element, and it sounds weird, but I feel like there's something bigger happening here, because, anytime I sort of hit a roadblock, if I ease off a little bit and relax, like things work out, or someone shows up out of,
You're not forcing anything.
I'm not forcing anything.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
When you tell Fran, your coworkers, about, oh my gosh, the winds were 40 and the waves were 10 feet high. I mean, what's their reaction?
She thinks I'm totally crazy.
Did you ever see that movie called Solo?
No, I don't.
It's the one where the guy climbed El Cap in Yellowstone Like he free climbed it.
Free climbed it? Yes. Yes. I
so
had
no
to see
ropes
that.
or anything.
Yes. Yes.
Alex Honnold, that's
yes.
his name.
Yeah.
And he would go on,
They studied his brain too while he was.
They did,
right?
yeah.
Yes.
But he went on like interviews like on the news and stuff, and they would like be like, how can you be doing something so dangerous? And they were showing how much, like, I mean, he studies every single thumb hold, like everything, every minute thing. And for him, he says, I know from your perspective it's different, but from my perspective, he goes, it's high consequence because if he falls, he dies.
Yeah.
I mean, after probably 40 feet.
Yeah.
If he falls, he dies. So he says high consequence, but it's low risk.
Yes.
And it's crazy to think that that's low risk.
Right.
You're on a wall and there's a half an inch of margin of death, but because he studied so much.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's the same for you guys. Like people probably think like, oh my gosh, you could run into this storm, but you know what to do. You're not running into it going, like you've had, you've read about what to do. You've probably had little experiences along the way. You have different experts with you. So it's for you, yes, the consequence, maybe not as high as climbing El Cap, but it's that low risk idea because you guys know what you're doing.
Absolutely. And it most certainly could be high risk, right? But the more I'm doing out there, the more I realize how much more I need to know and understand. I feel super grateful that I am going with an experienced captain like Mark Schrader. But I also know I bring a lot to the table as well. And I'm just trying to grow that as well. But one thing I think I really bring to the table is I'm very intuitive as well. So I like working with the elements and being quiet and listening and feeling and working with things, like working with the elements and bringing it all together. So.
Yeah, because you were saying that you were watching the weather. I mean, so you must have a bunch of different options. Okay, here's plan A, here's plan B, because you never know. Yeah. It says the wind might do this later, but I mean, does the weather forecast
always.
How often does it match what actually happens?
Yeah, no, not often, right? Well, I mean, it's often you can get a good read of what's going to happen, but then on top of it you have tides and they're always switching as well. Plus you have back eddies, you have different things you're working with while you're out there. And all of a sudden also things just are just weird too, right? Like you can all of a sudden have like it's weird standing waves where you're like, why is this happening? So I always like trying to figure that out and why are these things happening? I find that really fascinating. And like I said, I've always found weather really fascinating as well. So that whole sequence of trying to figure things out on a day-to-day basis, it keeps me alive and excited, and I'm learning a ton, and I hope to come back as like this amazing sailor, because it's just not to be proved, like show everybody that, hey, I'm an amazing sailor, but truly it's just, for me, it's been a weird calling since I was a really young person. So I feel like I'm having that opportunity to live that dream out. So
well, and the fact that you went away for it for a time, and I talked to a lot of musicians on here, like I said, and there's just been this weird trend of, guys who played music in their teens, discovered in their teens, played in their early 20s, and then for whatever reason, wife, kids, just life. Full-time job, they just forgot music.
Yes.
And then now they're in their 40s, and it's just all crashing back. Like they almost can't stop it.
Yes.
They have these songs in their head that they have to get out. And, people joke about like a, midlife crisis, but like, I think we have to think of a different word for that. Like, I don't know about awakening.
But I was thinking about that. Somebody once said, oh, midlife crisis. And I was like, oh no, I had my crisis, like when my brother has died, but I'm having like a midlife, like awakening.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling more connected to myself than I've ever felt in my life before. And I'm very, like, honestly, so Fran thinks I'm crazy, at work, but she also is like, you've always talked like this, Jen. This has always been something you're supposed to do. So it's just who I am. It's just part of who I'm supposed to be. And it is a weird thing. And I think it's inspiring to hear musicians talk like that, because a lot of people think, oh, I'm done. I'm washed up. I don't have it in me. I'm not artistic or creative anymore. But we still have it in us, right? Any age.
And I think there's just so many not just stereotypes, but like at a certain age, you should be doing this, or at a certain age, you shouldn't be doing this, you know?
Yes.
I mean, how many, like if we took the poll of like the ages of the musicians in the Valley, like Andy was sitting here yesterday and he said, when I was 25, I remember thinking, I'm too old to be in a band, you know?
Right?
That was
It's
when he
true.
was 25.
Yep.
And it's almost like that idea, and I brought this up a couple times, like the rules are fake. Like, do whatever you want. Like, our basement is not supposed to be a jam room. This is not supposed to be a recording studio. It's probably supposed to be like a closet or something, but who cares? Like, what drives you? What's your passion? Like, do that. And so you almost have to think back to when you were a kid. Like, what did you like doing?
And that's what I kind of do. That's kind of what I did. Is I start writing. I start writing a lot and going back to what made me happy. And you know, I think it's so true. All my life I've done things sort of backwards. I think, you know, I did a lot of things and a lot of traveling and different stuff. But I think at some point I kind of thought that too when I had kids and everything. And I remember being out on the islands with them on the boat thinking, God, I always wanted to sail, but maybe I won't. Maybe when they're older, maybe I finally will. But I kind of thought I wouldn't get that opportunity. And now I'm going to be sailing more miles than I would just sailing around the world. So,
yeah. And that's one silver lining I think of COVID was that it just allowed everyone to pause.
It did.
And go, are we happy?
Yes.
You know? Because, I mean, as you walked in, all this violin teacher was up there. I was shoving food in my mouth. And Riley opened the door. And like everything happens in 10 minutes. They all leave. We come down here and we start. And at what point do we pause and go, are we happy? Is this what we really want? You know? And then as you know,
and
kids, like they go through all these stages and we just kind of, once we're used to one, they have another one.
Oh my gosh. Exactly.
Yes.
And they continue to do that, by the way, all the way in their 20s
I thought
too.
it was done at 13.
No.
But then also because, you know, we're well-meaning parents, we focus so much on all the stuff that they're going through.
Yes.
And we forget about what we're going through.
Yes.
So I never want there to be another COVID again. But like you were saying, like you started like meditating.
Yes.
I mean, I think I haven't done that, but I've always thought about like, I should do that.
Yeah.
I think that would actually really help. I think everyone should pause.
Yes,
So like we should have a nationwide nap time.
Yes.
Not for really sleeping, but meditating. Just so people can just acknowledge like, okay, is this really what I want? And if it's not, let's talk about it. And if it is, great, keep going.
And just to be able to quiet your mind, because we're so filled with so many distractions nowadays, like so many distractions.
Well, you said you love music and you always have it on, and I'm guilty of that too. And then now, like, I'm always listening to my own podcast when I'm editing and stuff. And so I know people that always have a podcast on, or I think I'm guilty of always having TV on, you know, whether it's just Seinfeld in the background or The Enthusiast new album, To Rest a Field.
That's great.
But yeah, stopping is really important. So, and that's why I love this too. It's like, you know, you're not just on to like talk about like the adventure you're going on, but you know, someone might hear this and go, oh man, I've always thought about meditating. Like maybe this will inspire them, you know?
I hope so. I mean, because truly my life changed when I started I have a really good friend, Sarah. I'm doing a shout out to my friend, Sarah.
Oh, wait, is she also a fan of The Enthusiasts?
Yes.
Yes, I know her.
You do?
It's Sutherland?
Yes, Southern.
Yeah.
You do?
I see her. Well, the first time I ever met The Enthusiast was at the Concrete Theater.
Yeah. So
Did you go to that show?
Probably.
Sarah was there.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, what are you doing here? This is when I didn't realize how amazing they were and how their fans will go everywhere. And actually, Andy was saying, he goes, I always feel guilty when people show up at like shows like that. And I go, why? And he's like, they drove all the way there to see me. Like, gas is expensive.
We hiked that day actually and then went there. I think that's what happened. But we knew that we were going to go there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, I'd go anywhere to see it. They're such a great band. I actually did an episode. So I just did an episode with Andy, but I also did an episode with Summer and Andrew.
Oh, fun.
Brother, sister.
Great.
And whew. It was everything. It was sad. It was funny.
Wow.
It was sweet. Like, you know, Summer told a really sweet story, and Andrew's like, I didn't know that.
Oh, that's
you know,
really
things
cool.
like that about
Wow.
their childhood and just how they started. And they're such great people. Andrew actually helped us buy this house.
Oh, that's so great.
He's a mortgage guy.
Cool.
So yeah, he's
So
amazing.
cool.
But yeah, so you're giving a shout out to Sarah.
Yeah, so Sarah and I started walking in COVID. You know, we lived close to each other. Well, we raised our kids together. So I've known Sarah forever.
Oh, okay.
So basically we call ourselves and another lady the chosen family. Chosen family as in all our kids, we do camp things together. We've just hung out forever together. Anyway, and during COVID, obviously I was going through a really hard time, and her and I just start walking and talking, and then yoga, and I have a great yoga group of women. And
where do you go to yoga?
Really, we do it outside. We started outside. And so again, Jen McFarland, do another shout out. She started to do Monday night yoga for us for free, and we met up outside somewhere, and we would spatial, be spaced apart during COVID. Yeah. And we continue to do that to this day. But I added these things in my life that were, they've been really good for me. I'm quiet my mind down, and I need to do that almost daily now for myself. And I need to always fit in a yoga or a walk or in a laughter with a girlfriend. And these things help lighten my world up. And once I lighten my world up, amazing things start to flow. And so I really believe in it because truly, like Fran would attest to, this whole journey about me going off to sail around North and South America, it just all happened when I started to tap into this resource inside myself, and things just really started to open up wide for me. So sailing came back in an amazing way for me. So yeah, it's really cool. You
probably know Heidi Herder.
Yes, and I just was listening to your podcast with her. I love Heidi. I see her every day, so I love her. She's such inspiration. Yeah. She really is.
Anyone that's sort of doing anything that's out of the norm, I just think we should highlight, because again, so many people just think there's certain ways you should do things, and
it's true. Yeah. And talking about them helps, and it helps. I mean, we all grieve differently, and grieving is a weird process, that's for sure. I had one brother, he committed suicide, and it was he had a brain tumor, and it was getting really bad, and I think he knew his next steps, he was going to be institutionalized, and he chose to take his life. But we didn't know exactly how that all happened, and then the borders closed down.
Oh, no.
And so we were trying to look for him in Vancouver.
So this was like February, March.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I got the call from the detective, and anyway, it was a long journey of still, even that I didn't know all the answers because they weren't positive it was him. And it's just a very long journey. Yeah. I had to go through that from behind closed doors, but then behind closed borders. But then my older brother was in Vancouver, and he ended up dying 1 year and 1 month exactly after my younger brother died. And for unexplained reasons, it was just, I don't really know why, but I will tell you, I think it's from a broken heart. Oh. And he was going through COVID by himself and all the grief. And I just felt really sad. I couldn't be there more. We talked every single day, but I couldn't hug him, and yeah. Anyway, so it was quite a journey for me to get through that. But like I said, everybody has their own journey, and walking and yoga and laughter with my girlfriends was like a huge healing for me. And then again, just getting quiet and listening to yourself and listening to those whispers of, the universe kind of works in mysterious ways like that. And if you take the time to listen, it's always guiding you. Like can I tell you a quick little story? I don't know how much time we have.
No, don't be quick. You got time. Yeah.
So like just recently, I went to
Gregory Allen Isaacoff.
Yeah. In Bellingham.
Oh, at Mount Baker?
Yeah.
Oh, that would be good.
It was really amazing.
I really like him.
So I went with my girlfriends, and it was a beautiful black stage, just mesmerizing. He came out. Well, the only thing he had on the stage was a glowing globe. And here I'm sitting there, and North and South America are just shining right at me. And I was like, what in the world? Wow. Then a few days later, I left to go to Seattle, and I was in Seattle for a week for the Seattle Boat Show because we were presenting all the time down there. My Airbnb down there had a globe right beside my bed, and North and South America was pointing at me. So I was like, okay, this is weird. Then the man who sold me the sailboat, I'm half owners of the sailboat that's going on it. He passed away this year, and he was going to go through the Northwest Passage with us. Well, I went to his memorial, and there at the memorial, I'm not sure what you call it, the little pamphlet with their, they talk about who they are. And
Oh,
all
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But it had a picture of his smiling face. And this lady had this cup set right beside it. And it was a cup with North and South America on it. And Kurt's smiling. And I was like, okay, I'm hearing you, universe. And
I get it.
and then my last little example is when I was leaving work, the lady replacing me brought boxes into the office. And she had a globe with North and South America pointing up at me.
No.
And I was like, okay, I'm on the right track. I know I am. I hear you. And thank you, universe. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
And
crazy.
I always think about, if someone's listening and they go, oh, meditating, I think I would like that. I mean, how did you start? Did you download an app? Did it happen during...
I YouTubed the heck out of it. I'm not I'll
YouTube.
try to do quiet ones without anybody guiding me, but I do a lot of guided ones, especially Deepak Chopra on Spotify. He has a 21-day meditation, and I tend to rotate through that, and I just try to set my intentions and set my day with that. And then I listen to little things on my way to work in the morning to just keep my brain on that, like just believing and being happy, to tell you the truth. I've always been a happy person, but just allowing myself to be happy no matter what conditions are coming through. And so then I do yoga a lot as well.
Yeah.
Just all keeps me aligned and keeps me centered and focused.
What kind of routine, like, can you do your meditating on your boat? Can you, it sounds like, can you have coffee on your boat? Like, what is
it going to be like?
Well, I guess first of all, so I didn't go to see the presentation, but you had the vessel there. Did you have the vessel?
At the open house? Yeah,
Yeah.
It was on the dry dock at the Marine Tech Center in Anacortes. It was behind the building there. They did all the refits for us.
So how many people are going to be on the boat?
5.
Are you going to have like your own space?
No, not really.
Okay.
There's not going to be a lot of privacy on board, but I'm up for that. We'll have rotating schedules, so we'll have to do like night shifts as well.
Oh, for sleeping.
Yeah. Well, for sailing through the night.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then everybody will take turns, cooking, and we all have our jobs to do for the expedition.
And you probably made the
itself.
schedule.
Well, I haven't done it yet, but I have Mark's old one from 2010. I know.
It's not me yet.
I can't even tell you how busy we've been. So
do it by late April, probably.
Yeah, right.
Give yourself the good shifts. No.
So we'll have different shifts. So we'll be at different times. We're going to try and have like dinner times together. And will I be able to continue my stuff? I'm really hoping so. Mark Schrader knows how important that is to me. I want everybody to be able to do what's healthy and best for them, and then do their shift work as well. I think that's really important. So yes, I have got a little part of the bow on the boat that I'm a little squished up there, but I do my yoga and I do yoga around all these different things on the boat because I just have to. And then I will meditate as much as I can. And sometimes when I'm out there and I'm by myself, and it's really quiet, like truthfully, like you're kind of meditating for a long time when it's really quiet and it's just you and the wind, and that you're really connected and really quiet and just working with the elements. So I feel like that's meditation for myself too. So
I think it would be really hard to do yoga on a boat and get used to that, and then do yoga on the land.
It is. It's really
like
hard.
You'd almost like have to readjust your body, or maybe you'll be kind of out of alignment.
Well, I don't know. You're moving. We'll be moving constantly for 14 months. I was trying to tell my daughter that. I'm like, your body's moving for 14 months, no matter what. Even when you're sleeping, you're moving. So that will be interesting. Doing yoga in all the conditions. I don't think I'll be able to do it in all the conditions. I've tried in some pretty hard conditions.
Yeah.
But I can do, I can get down and just do some stretching and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, that'll be a little difficult.
Is there any town in particular you're very excited about stopping in? Like maybe you've been there before or you've heard about it?
Well, I'm going to say 2 things. So when I was a little girl, I used to open up this big atlas my parents had, and I always looked at the most northern part of Canada, like Hudson Bay area, and I used to dream about like boating and sailing through those areas and dream about the explorers. So that I
while you were in your blanket, your HBC blanket.
Yeah, right. Yep. So I can't believe I'm going to get to do that. Like I just can't believe it because I can't wait to see maybe some icebergs and hopefully polar bears and narwhals. Like I can't wait for all of that. And then my other one I'm really looking forward to, I mean, there's a lot that I'm looking forward to, but I lived in Chile for a year in Puerto Montt region, and we're going to be stopping back in there.
Which is like sort of whereabouts?
So right at the northern, like right when it gets into like the Patagonia range, there's Puerto Montt, Puerto Vargas, and I lived in the lake region. And it sounded like to me what you said with New Zealand. It's very condensed. It reminded me of a lot of Vancouver or Seattle area with a lot of beautiful lakes, but also mountainous regions. And then the ocean is right there too.
Oh, wow.
So it's beautiful, beautiful place. I love the people, and I can't wait to go back and see it again. It's been 30 years. So, and I have to say, like, sometimes too, for me personally, I had all these weird jobs, you know, the school district I worked at for the longest time I've ever worked at a job. And other than that, I used to work a lot in tourism. And
like, what did you do?
Well, I worked at that fishing lodge for a long time, for 4 years. Absolutely loved it. I came to life back then. And then when I got home, I actually started a company called Bigfoot's Backpacking Adventures in Vancouver and pick up kids from the youth hostel. And then we'd go to Whistler, and then it just expanded and we start going to Banff. Then I sold that and went to school in University of Victoria. And then from there, I got a call from someone that used to come to Langara Fishing Lodge, and he had a fly fishing lodge in Chile. So he invited me to go to Chile. Wow. And I got to start a business there as well. So I've kind of done all these like really weird things, and I would get bored easily. So I would, and anyway, the district was a wonderful time for me as well. But coming to all these weird things to becoming the project director for this expedition, I feel like all my weird things that I've done in my past all have come together to make me I feel like I'm very good at this position.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
how did your daughter end up
along? I was working away on the expedition, and then one morning she was home from university and she came out of bed and she sat down and she was like, "Listen, I think I'm the right person for this job." And she literally like sat down like it was a job interview. And she was like, "I know you'd be my boss, and I promise I would listen to everything you say and blah, blah, blah. But I'm a sailor. I'm an expert sailor." Like, she's a really good sailor. And she's like, "I'm a scientist. This is my passion. This is what I want to do." And I was like, you had me at hello, but I let her just talk about it. And I'm really excited. I'm really intimidated. She's smarter than me. She's a better sailor. So I'm going to be like kicked off this boat, but I'm very grateful and excited to get to have an adventure like this with her. I really can't wait. So,
I was going to ask if your son was jealous, but he's off in LA.
Yeah,
being a music star.
He'd be like, heck no. He's
Did he not sail?
No, he sailed.
Okay.
Yeah, I took the kids every summer to Lopez Island, and they used to have a sailing camp there, and they start learning at 9 years old to sail. And then I used to boat alone with them out on the San Juan Islands. And so when they were really little, like, I was teaching them man overboard drills, because I was like, if something happened to me, I want them both to know how to, do the things that they need to do. And so he's a very good boater. He's a very good sailor, but he's also hugely into music.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's going to take, did you say 14 months?
14 months, yeah. So we'll be back the following summer.
And the other trips that Mark has done, I guess, did you did you say like, "Hey, can I like look at your paperwork?" Or like, I guess.
Oh, from all the that
yeah,
past
like,
expedition?
Can I read about your past expedition? Like, I'm just curious. Like, is it are sailors very, very particular about like, we have to keep a log, because then if someone else does it, it's kind of like when you go on the WTA app and you do trail trip. What are they called? Trail or trip reports, right?
Yeah, trip reports.
You're like, "Hey, I was there last week. There's still snow. Yes. Watch out." Like, is there something with sailing?
Oh yeah, gosh, Mark is meticulous with his logs. He's quite honestly, he's been an incredible mentor. I think he thought his sailing days were done when we were doing the Haida Gwaii trip. I think he thought he was sort of done and that the expedition wouldn't happen again. And
then you walked into his life.
Yeah. And I was like, "Be careful, because I will get this done." So he's been teaching me absolutely everything he knows. And I mean, teaching me like from the ground up on sailing, like every little thing about it. And it's been a lot. I've been learning like crazy, but he's meticulous. He's stern at me, you know, and he's stern. He wants me to learn. He wants me to co-captain. And he's a huge support of women getting out and doing these things too. So he's been an incredible mentor for me, and I'm really appreciative of him. Yes, he keeps meticulous log books. They wrote a book about their last expedition, One Island, One Ocean it's called, and Herb McCormick wrote it. And Mark, so I've read all of that. Then I started digging into Mark Schrader's past after I got to sail with him, and I was like, oh my gosh, where in the world did I have the nerve to sail with this guy? Super glad I did, but you know, he obviously is very patient with me. But we're going to bring those logbooks out with us from the last expedition, and so we have them so we can kind of read about what they were experiencing, what we're looking at, and we're going to be doing comparative of what's changed out there too, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of change.
And I'm thinking from the like technical standpoint. So you were saying that, you know, you wanted to kind of update people live as you went.
Yes.
But I guess I just don't know a lot about tech and the ocean. Like, is
How does it work?
Is that like pretty easy these days? Like you just connect to Starlink or something, or what?
Unfortunately, Starlink. Sorry, everybody. But yes, we're going to have to use Starlink to stay connected. And it's going to be interesting because for the most part, we're going to be close to the shoreline, somewhat close, but we do have some very big crossings. So Starlink's going to come out far with us, and we'll have to see how that works out there. But
do you have like solar powered batteries?
Yes, we do. So so Mike Beamer, who's a crew member, he's also the department chair for the Marine Tech Center. He just is the wizard of knowing everything, like everything. He's so incredibly smart. He's trying to make us like a pretty darn green, low carbon footprint. He's loading us up with all kinds of solar, and we have a Watton-Sea off the back swim step, which also creates power for us on board. We do have a generator, and but we're gonna try really hard to keep things pretty low. And
so it's you, Grace, Mark.
Yes.
Who are the other two?
Then we have, and Mike Beamer. And then we have Tess Shornack, who's 20. She's 21-year-old, and she's been a longtime friend of Grace's, who also approached me and just said, I think she's also a sailor, and she sails for Western, and she's doing environmental science. But she also is really fantastic. I don't know if you've seen any of our social media. Everything's on One Island, One Ocean. So
she did it all? She's
doing it all. She's doing all our education outreach. And there were these, you know, basically I was like, I don't have time to hire someone and train someone because I don't really know what I'm doing myself. I'm just trying to get us from here to there. And I said, anybody who steps in and wants to go, like, you're going to have to create your position and work for it. And they stepped up, and they've created these incredible parts of their, you know, jobs, and I'm grateful for them. So it's definitely not a one-person team here. It's all five of us, and and we have a slew, like a ton of volunteers who have been working super hard for the whole project. So it's not even like a Mark Schrader dream or my dream or anything like that. Now it's truly this big combined dream of a lot of people in Skagit Valley here. So it's really neat. So Anacortes Yacht Club really promotes youth lessons and getting youth into sailing, and so I'm a big believer in that. Unfortunately, Lopez Island had to fold their sailing club, and that's just too bad. It was just an incredible experience for my kids for many, many, many years. So when I get back, I definitely am going to be spending some time helping to get youth involved in sailing because it's done amazing things for myself and my children. So yeah.
Well, yeah, you'll have to find something to do when you get back.
I know. It's going to be weird because people are like, what are you going to do when you get back? I'm like, I haven't had a moment to think about that yet. And I'm sure I'll have a lot of time out there to think about that, but
it also kind of goes against the whole like listening to the earth and meditating. Like, you shouldn't be worrying about what's going to happen in 14 months.
Yeah, right.
When you step off the boat, where's your next paycheck coming from?
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing. Those things do cause anxiety, and that's where I try not to focus too much on those little anxiety bubbles that because if you do, then you're deep into that anxiety, and it's really hard to get out of that sort of mind frame and to focus on the beauty around you and the happiness and the lightness and the great connections. And so I try to stay in that side of things. And when the anxieties come up, I try to compartmentalize or say, okay, I'll look at you tomorrow, anxiety, but I wake up the next morning and I meditate and I'm not looking at that. So I fool myself.
It's like that sign that says free beer tomorrow, and it's always up there. Right?
It's always tomorrow.
Like anxiety, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And then the next day, like, oh, no, I said tomorrow.
Yeah.
You come back home, you're flat broke. You know Fran's going to take you in.
Yeah, I'm coming, Fran. I already told her that when I left. I was like, you have some property, Fran. I might be needing to camp there.
Start working that tiny home.
I know. I have a great group of people here in Skagit, so I'll be all right.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess if people want to follow the journey, I'm going to get this: one world, one island.
No, one island, North and South America, and then one ocean around it. So we're one island, one ocean.
One island, one ocean.
Our website is www.oneislandoneocean.com. All our social media is One Island, One Ocean, because we really like that message. We really want to connect people to look at this as one ocean, and we should all be taking care of it together. And so everybody we're talking to, and like I just had a meeting just before I came here with Seattle Aquarium, and we're going to be their whole promotion of they have One Ocean, their new pavilion on the water there, and so they really want to work with us, and that's fantastic. And we're gonna present at Vancouver Aquarium as well. But
good.
What I'm finding is people are actually really happy to share with us what they're doing, and really excited to connect with others, because we keep telling everyone whatever we're doing, we're sharing this with everyone for free. We're having all open source research and open source education platform, and everybody's really happy to do that.
You're sailing around the world. Like, I can't imagine what you're going to discover.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, you have no idea how much. You might not come back.
Yeah, I know.
Fran, this is a goodbye note. Goodbye letter note.
It's going to be one or the other, right? It's either like, get me off this boat and I'll be just kissing land, or I'll be like, okay, I'll be kicking the crew off and taking off again. So,
how long has your daughter been on a boat for? What's her longest length of time?
Well, when she was young, we used to spend like a month on our boat. And then she's gone off to sail with her uncle, and he's lived on his catamaran for years and years. So I think she was gone with him for like 3 weeks sailing offshore. So
we'll see.
It's big.
Yeah.
Add some weeks onto that. But how I'm looking at all of it, and I keep telling all the crew, I have a list of people that would like to come on the boat. The problem is that we're all being trained to do all the different research and all that kind of stuff. But if I don't want to force it, nobody has to stay on that boat for the whole year. If people need to go home, deal with things,
have a plan B.
I'm like, please go. And we have crew that could come in at different places. And I want to keep people's spirits up. This isn't a force thing again. This is truly about inspiration and not about force. It's about going out there, doing the best we can right now. Like more than ever, I'm so passionate about going out and doing the best I can. I decided to do this expedition too because both my kids did. Like my son did natural resources up at UBC and conservation of natural resources, and my daughter's doing marine biology. And I decided I needed to do something. I can't just tell them to go change the world. I needed to step up to the plate. And then I had this opportunity come up. And so I feel like now more than ever, this is so important to get out there. And I mean, gosh, who knows? Maybe Elon Musk will shut down our Starlink out there on us because we're going out to do something for the environment, but I'm going to go do it anyway. And we'll figure that out if something like that happens. But I just really feel that, especially for women in science, it's really important right now. Science matters, and we're going to go do this.
And it's interesting to think too, like, what if this happened in, let's say, 2015? Like, how would the Jen back then have dealt with organizing it? And it would have been a completely different journey.
It would have been a different journey. That's an interesting question. I mean, I've grown so much. I've always taken on a lot and able to get a lot of things done. But sometimes, like at what cost? And now where I'm trying to do it with grace and ease, if that makes sense. Like I'm really trying to take care of myself as I do this. Now, as we get closer to that launch date, things are getting a little more crazy, but I'm still trying to take care of myself. I'm still trying to do yoga. I'm still less is more in some cases. Sometimes when I sit down and I actually take the time and I meditate, then I can sit down right after and I write up our whole education plan, and I'm like, wow, that just came out so easily because I just got quiet and clear. So I feel like I've grown tremendously in recognizing that I can get a lot done and I can handle a lot. I don't want to have to handle things anymore. I want to work with them in joy and ease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's such a great example for your daughter as well.
I'm hoping we can do a live connection with your classroom and talk to the kids and have them ask us questions about what it's like out there or what science we're doing or anything. So,
well, they're just going to ask you the most basic questions.
I know.
Like,
I love it.
How do you go poop?
Yeah, I love it.
Get ready for these really intense questions.
Yes. And I love that you're Canadian and I love that you're Burlington Edison School District. And thank you so much. I mean, I was really surprised that you asked me to do this, and I'm really appreciative that you did because I was nervous, but being with you, you've just put me at ease. So thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks. Yeah. I enjoy doing this, and I can't wait to interview everyone in the Valley.
Oh, you're so awesome. That's great. Thank you.
All right, well, stay safe out there.
Okay, thank you so much.